So much powerful work on this panel. I wish everyone could have the space to just keep going. And last and certainly not least is our sister Adasha Turner, who we had the blessing of hanging out at your farm that you have on Whidbey Island. And now they have a halal food program, I believe, and you're doing so much amazing work here in the area as well. So, I mean, mashallah, I've been really inspired by the sister to see all of the different layers of like food-based startups in this city, but this is like one of my favorites and most amazing. So again, work that's not really happening anywhere else. So mashallah, tell us your story. Oh. Wait, and you have to tell us the part of the story in particular is you have to tell us that crazy story about the contract piece, if you're willing as well, because I think it serves a point to say, when I opened, I said part of the two things we have to do is, one, we have to know the truth, and that has to do with knowing the true worldview of Islam and our teachings, which has to do things with like the Islamic economy versus Western capitalism that we're just living within as if that's normative. The world is insane. Right? This type of capitalism that we live within is not normal, and it's destroying our entire planet. So I think you have a really, and then the second piece I said, so it's truth, and then the second one is we have to build power, right, in all the different ways. And I think with your project, you're doing that. So.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you. Like brother said, my name is Adasha Turner. I am co-founder of Modest Family Solutions and CEO of Black Seed Agroecology Village on Whidbey Island. What he was speaking of, we actually started as a homeschool respite for Muslim homeschoolers. We ran Sunday school out of MAPS. What we were looking at was a lot of the families and mothers were wanting other things, skill building for their kids outside of the madrasa, but they still wanted to have a community. So we started Sustain 2014 to 2019, trying to really get support from the community and these families that really wanted to build, outside of the masjid and do, fun things. So they've broken off. We have a lot of tribalism within our community. We have a lot of, we're very careful on who we have, within, that's teaching our children, the specific things that we want them to learn, either from back home, right? And we try to implement that in Western society, and sometimes our kids don't really get it. So being the chair of the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion at the Muslim Association of Puget Sound, Redmond, with Sister Duha and Sam and some other folks that had joined that DEI committee to answer the call of the youth on how do we kind of merge our two worlds. We're constantly code switching, right? And it wasn't working, especially during the time of post-George Floyd era. There were a lot of community and kids that wanted to go out and protest, and the messages were telling them, like, that's not our business, right? And so it's like, well, when is it gonna be our business? We're always kind of either hiding or we have this alternative, identity, which we're not supposed to. We're supposed to be Muslim and proud. So I took a break from that and really focused on taking Sustain outside of the masjid because it wasn't being supported within the community. They didn't feel like it was, needed or higher priority. We're gonna put all of our money, all of our coins into, Sunday school, and that's it. But our kids were craving more. So we developed the Agroecology Center North, which is in Everett. But we have some very deep roots in agroecology within the Muslim community. Actually, we have in Andalus, Spain, the Moors and the Ottoman Empire that had ruled for 800 years in this agricultural system and in society. They still have teachings today that you can go and visit and work with some of the Muslims in the community, travel and whatnot. But from that experience, I ran into, I think you all know, Brother Ramis Kent, who came for a stint, after that. Him and I were in a cohort together with Dr. Adi out of the KL Islamic economy, and we studied our focus was on, our major was on the alchemy of happiness, El Ghazali. In that was astonishing. There was, they referenced the Ottoman Empire and how we created systems, and we really focused on mastery of skill, but not only the skill, but it was mastery of the transaction. So we spent so much time, so much time on the contract, right? The contracts that we have, Islamic contracts, things that we lose in the Western civilization as we shed that to gain business, to gain capital, to run our businesses, to try to get loans or make it Sharia compliant and whatnot. But when we were looking at the actual transaction, what that meant, and it was really honoring the rights of all individuals involved, all individuals and entities involved. And that was something important. So after graduating this program, we brought Brother Ramis here to help with the social part. I'm not so social. I am a behind the scenes type of person. And I would work on that while he would work on, getting community together to really lead an Islamic economy here in Seattle. With that, there was an opportunity with an American trust company who are land holding. So as farmers and as producers in just America, we know that like black and brown people are normally the laborers of, the society, right? There's not, to be an entrepreneur and to break away and have a business is a one-off. It's not the majority. So when it comes to what's going to deliver us from that is ownership, right? That's what we all seek, these loans and partnerships to gain assets. So we really took a deep dive into breaking all of that down so we can break away from it. So we found that these trust companies are entrusted with land and titles and deeds and whatnot, and they actually, alhamdulillah, right after I submitted my thesis on this gifting economy with this, kind of introductory or entry via entry into social enterprise via land and assets that are held by trust. A trust company here in the Pacific Northwest opened up a RFP or request for application for 10 acres on Whidbey Island. So alhamdulillah, we applied and we won because it was just, why not? It was a good plan. It was not something that they had seen or heard of before. And so in 2021, we launched Black Seed Farms over on Whidbey Island. Shortly after, and what the brother's referring to, the ED, so this particular program that is nationwide was capitalizing on the need and the cries for the people to have access to land, especially black and brown farmers, immigrant refugee farmers that come from, back home that were looking to grow here in the US, but they were having problems finding land, so what do? So historically, they put you in historically they put you into slavery. Now slavery 2.0, they put you in a stewardship contract where they'll give you a piece of land and they'll have you steward it for 5 to 10 years. After 5 to 10 years, they give you no reason, no explanation, they ask you to move. Some of these larger corporations here, even in Seattle, there was 60 farmers on one piece of land that was harvesting, pretty much self-reliant, self-sustaining, providing to community. They get asked to move. They get an eviction notice. And you sit down and you hear these stories over and over and over again. And it's like, how are we going to break this cycle? So again, looking back at the trust, what we did once we were awarded the land, we had to go into the lease. And they thought they were going to do the same thing with us, give us a 5-year, 10-year lease. And I said, no, I would like a 99-year lease. And are you sure? Oh, I'm positive. There's no way in my age I want to do this again in 5 to 10 years. And then 5 to 10 years after that. What they don't know, my connection to this land is 4 generations from an enslavement ship. My aunt is 109 years old, still alive in Alabama today. And what she went through in the fields and the separation and the trauma that was caused, during that period, it's in my blood. So if I'm going to do this work, I'm going to learn from my elders. So no, I can't have a 10-year lease. I can't have a 5-year lease. It needs to be 99 years. We need to experience land transfer. We need to be able to experience intergenerational wealth. This is what it's going to be. In addition to that, it's going to be Islamic. So they were like, wow, she's so quiet, until she's not. But they had to honor it. They supplied us with lawyers, and the lawyers, they looked at everything and they made sure it was sound. So we had a binding 99-year Islamic contract with the trust, which they took very lightly, by the way. They're just like, yeah, whatever. Make her be quiet, get in front of the camera, this looks good for the portfolio. Shortly after, the Edie of that trust took advantage of all of the land deeds and contracts that were given to specifically support black and brown immigrant farmers to obtaining land, and tried to put it in a separate entity and take the land from us. So alhamdulillah, because of the type of contract that Dr. Adi and the Gifting Economy program helped us construct, legally it was binding and they couldn't take the land. And furthermore, by default, in that, because there was equity ingrained and there's integrity ingrained and there was in the contract, by default, we won the land. So we are now deeded the property as of February 6th, and we own Black Seed, alhamdulillah. Two days after that, the state funds us for being in food systems, by the way. I'm in a lot of policy work with food systems. I see a lot. I fight a lot for, I'm still fighting for the Pacific Northwest Zabiha brand, because there are farmers there that slaughter, that are ordained to slaughter halal meat. And I said, that's not how that works. How does that happen? Well, we found that there's some of your books that say that as long as they're believing in one God, that we can slaughter halal. And we're not going to go into disagreements between different madhabs. We know, we know. But the fact that someone outside of Islam could come in and use this to manipulate what halal is. I said, you know what the intention is. You know that the people that are seeking halal meat. And if they knew what we knew, what I knew, they wouldn't accept it. But I think because we don't know each other, it's a problem, right? And it goes back to, certain people allow certain things, and then it speaks for everyone, it speaks volumes. So wrote a really detailed grant, because we saw a lot of farmers that it didn't stop them from selling the meat that they were already selling, right? Regular meat. But they were really going for the 30% markup. And you're gonna call it what it is, just for halal. And it's not halal. Then they asked us if we wanted to partake in it to help it make it easier to sell it to our community. And I said, no, I have to answer for this. So we, shortly after we were deeded the property, I wrote this out. I don't know how it was gonna be received, but we have been funded to build the Black Seed Halal Processing and Training Facility over on Whidbey Island. So we break ground next week for our well, our septic, and then inshallah on Juneteenth, which happens to be Black Liberations, and Eid, we will be slaughtering and we'll be welcoming community there for true liberations of the land. A week ago, the Attorney General made it illegal for people to slaughter halal meat and say that it's halal. It's now a misdemeanor and with a fine of $500,000 if they are caught doing it. So. In the United States or the state of Washington? The state of Washington, unfortunately. What we pressed was, we saw this here, and I was like, okay, this is an isolated thing. But then we saw USDA, and I have the recording of them informing all the other farmers, like, hey, you too can get in on this. All you have to do is, proclaim, that you believe in a God, and you can, slaughter halal. We pushed back on zabiha, and they're like, okay, you could have zabiha. So I said, our community needs to start asking for zabiha. And one of the other things that we do, sorry to be lengthy, is we have a youth program. We have an Agroecology Center North. We now have an Agroecology Center South in Skyway, and we have the Agroecology Village over in Blackseed. We are a 4-H program. We have access to skill building, just like the Boys and Girls Club. The 4-H has been around for 100 years. They have been building skills with communities, their own communities, outside of slavery. We've only been free for 150 years. So they took a lot of that institution and a lot of that structure, and they hid it in plain sight. So they put it under 4-H, which was built with universities on Black and Indigenous land grants. So they have in this state $35 million of scholarships that haven't been tapped into, that our kids could actually benefit from. They just needed someone to put it together. So alhamdulillah, that's what Blackseed is. That's what our agroecology program is. It's called ACE Leadership. Agroecology, actually, the way of the Sunnah, we all know, green Muslim, green Deen, all of that, it all promotes. Actually, the UN just deemed agroecology possessing 9 of the 16 2030 global mitigation efforts that we all can be participating in. So the fact that Washington State has an agroecology center, 1, 2, and a village, and it's Muslim and Black woman led, you would think that we would be recognized, but we're still fighting. So my thing, we have a mobile market now, Blackseed Mobile Market. We have a contract with the Department of Health. If you buy from us, they match you up to $50, so you can get $100 of produce, including halal meat, and only spend $50. So we're looking at all of that to reinvest to our own community. This is not grant dependent. This is all profit. It's all halal profit that can go back into building economics, development, youth development, program development for our Muslims here in Washington State. So, alhamdulillah, for 2024, we've gone through a lot these last few years, but it's the launch of everything. We own all of our assets, no debt, including our land, and there's not a lot of farmers that can say that.
MashaAllah, what a powerful panel. So I want to turn to the audience. If you all have any questions, I want to respect that you all sat for so long and listened to so many different stories. I'll ask first, do people have questions, statements, anything? No? Everyone's tired? Oh, she's over here. Yeah. Alaikum salam.
So for Adasha, your program, how can we as individuals help people?
So right now, especially, my thing is it's community enrollment. We have so many programs, and it seems small, but they're on national levels. Our 4-H program, I'm now so many different things, but treasurer of the Poultry Council, right? And so these youth, thank you for asking, because I'm so all over the place, but we've made it to where the youth can get a $5,000 interest-free loan. They can purchase livestock. They could rent space on Blackseed and some of the other spaces we have. They can have feed. They can learn to raise their own livestock. We have an auction for them. They compete nationally and at the state fair, on showmanship of these animals. When at the end they have an auction, we purchase everything because we're going to make sure our youth shine. And then that's our input so we can slaughter for our community. So I can only grow my program at the pace of community involvement. If I go outside of that, then it's just me building another corporation. So that's why we're very small but very powerful. And so right now, as of March, today, we started our first agroecology program opening for this. So the cycle is from October to October for 4-H. And so we have a hydroponic farm, a urban farm, a hydroponic farm in Everett. We start signing up for that today, March 1st, and that will go into spring. And then after spring, there's a youth summer program that kids can get involved with. So my thing right now is to, for one, grow our mobile market to 200 families a week with produce, because that way we're able to support a lot of the other local farmers that are here as well. And that money, with 200 families, it's about like $400,000 a year. That's a good start for us not to being able to be grant dependent and be self-sufficient in what we're able to do and support other farmers and bring it in to help them scale economically. That's the market. For the youth, if they're able to get involved with the agroecology program and come and visit the farms, come out. We have access to it year round. So whether it's bringing your families out on the weekend, bringing your families out on a break, we have now RVs coming to be there, and we have lodging at the Whidbey Island Institute where Brother had visited. So we have a couple of overnights. Last year, from April to November, every Sunday, we had Warriors at Rest, where we were inviting people in the community that can come and we can strategize together. So my thing is just get involved. We have from we say K-18, you know, K-12, you know, but it's something for the whole family, because we have to be able to be comfortable with each other. If we're going to start talking about money and building our own banking systems and building our own financial independency of what's going on in the U.S. And so we can't do that if we don't know each other.
Yeah, and to me, what this is reflective of especially is I feel like a lot of us want to give up on this place, you know, with everything happening, and don't want to live in the United States, myself included, very much so, right? And I've lived all over the world, alhamdulillah, and so I know the weight that is here. We all know what the weight of this place is, but that has to do with the hearts of the people. And so what can we do to A, guide the people, and B, build power and transform this place? Because if we all leave here, what's going to happen? Who would change it? It won't be changed, right? And so this is what you're doing is digging in, right? Digging roots deeper to the roots you already have here, mashallah, and your family has.